Good afternoon, everyone. I hope I'm audible. Last time was a bit of a challenge, but this time I am. I hope so. Good afternoon, everyone, from QS Gauge and from our team from Bangalore. Today, we are going to be discussing about reimagining engineering education in the 21st century. My name is Shubhayu Naik. I'm the Director for Client Relations. We will shortly be joined by our wonderful panelists who will be giving their insights on engineering education. Now, we already know the challenges associated with the new and disruptive technologies of Industry 4.0, and these are coinciding with the rapid emergence of ecological constraints, the advent of increasingly multipolar international order, and rising inequality. These integrated developments are bringing us into a new era of globalization, which we can call as, say, globalization 4.0. Continuously changing expectations of the industry, society, and global stakeholders due to the technological disruption, globalization, and changing of student preferences. It's bringing to our notice on what is the change we have to bring in the engineering education in India right now. The future demand lies in emerging technologies as opposed to traditional engineering education, and this is something which we will definitely be discussing today. There is a lot of innovation driven economy. There is disruption and recombining countless industries and increasing the knowledge intensity of value creation. It is heightening competition within different institutions as well. And with this scenario in this 21st century, India must invest in producing a large yet high quality engineering graduate who is in tune with the future skill requirements that is demanded by the industry. So with further ado, I want to invite Professor Atul Khosla, the founder and pro vice chancellor of Shulni University. Good afternoon, Professor Khosla. Thank you for taking the time to being part of this panel.
Good
Professor
afternoon.
Khosla is joining us from Solan in Himachal Pradesh.
So lovely to be on this panel, Shubhayu. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Khosla. Unfortunately, Mr. Raman Batra couldn't join us. He was the executive president. He is the executive president of NIET, but unfortunately, due to a family emergency, he couldn't be here. However, I would love to invite Dr. S Sashi Anand. He is the vice president for academics with CARE, which is Kalsalingam Academy of Research and Education. Thank you, Dr. Sashi, for joining us again.
Good afternoon to all. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Dr. Sashi. And finally, our final panelist for today, Dr. N. Ramesh Babu. He's the principal for M. Kumaraswamy College of Engineering. It is a pleasure to have him on board with us. He is from Karur. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, and thank you for the invite. Happy to collaborate with all the people in this. Thank you for.
Dr. Babu, I think we can't hear you really well.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're very much audible right now. You are.
Yeah. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely. So I'm not going to go round and round. I'm going to quickly jump into the juicy stuff and the questions which we really want to discuss. We want to have an interactive session. All of the people who are joining us from YouTube, please feel free to share your questions, and I'm sure our panel members will be happy to answer to their best of what they think is the right question. Now, I want to start with Professor Khosla. Professor Khosla, now, as per the NEP, engineering institutions are going to move towards multidisciplinary education that is more towards arts, humanities. I wish that was there during my period of time when I was an engineering grad, but unfortunately isn't. And I would really like your opinion on that. I mean, the students of arts and humanities will also look at science and vice versa. So I really want your opinion, Professor Khosla, on how do you think that engineering institutions should cope with this upcoming change? Because this is going to happen eventually, right?
So, first of all, Subhayu, we need to realize that India's engineering is going through very tough times. 10 years back, every second person in India wanted to be an engineer. Today, no one wants to be an engineer. I'm not talking about AI and data science, but if you look at core engineering, very, very few people today are opting for it. The power of a nation comes from the progress they have in engineering and technology. And India is losing that very rapidly. If you don't create quality engineers, we cannot become a great nation. So that's the first point I'd like to make. So why did this happen? Why did this erosion of demand happen? And I think the answer is very simple. It's the not so quality education rendered by the thousands of engineering colleges that grew across the country. And they're all to blame. They gave not so quality education, students didn't get jobs, and demand doesn't exist. So I think that's the first problem statement I'd like to make. So what happened in terms of education? First, what they were teaching hasn't changed in the last 50 years. I was looking at some books of engineering students. When I studied at IIT Kanpur, and what students are being taught today is exactly the same. They're being taught the steam engine, for example. For God's sake, why is the steam engine relevant in today's world? Or they were being taught engineering drawing using the mini drafter. Not relevant anymore. So the point is, we haven't changed, and we need to dramatically change the way engineering is taught. The last thing I'd like to make over here is, I think the new education policy is making a very positive change. Engineering has to become multidisciplinary. And let me give an example over here. I try to bring in thermodynamics and air conditioning education on air conditioning into civil engineering students at Shillani. And there was a hue and cry. And students came to me and said, why do we have to learn thermodynamics? Why do we have to learn electrical engineering? And I told them, tell me one civil engineering building, one building in this world that does not have some form of heating or cooling or electronics. So it's one, multidisciplinary in terms of engineering. Secondly, it's also multidisciplinary in terms of the softer subjects. I'll give an example over here, and I look at my iPhone. Now, is this a computer? Is this a piece of metallurgy? A beautiful piece. Or is it a piece of design which is so sexy? Everything is coming together. And if Steve Jobs didn't have the ability to understand the softer side, he couldn't have made the iPhone. The point I wanted to make, Subhayu, is that everything needs to come together to become and build a great engineer. So I actually like this thought. Now, many engineering colleges might not be able to become multidisciplinary, so there have to probably be cohorts that will be created across multiple institutions of different sorts to make it happen. But the new education policy is a hats off, and I think if we can bring in relevant education, relevant engineering education, and multidisciplinary education into engineering, the glory of engineering will come back. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Khosla. Really great words. I do want Dr. Sashi also to reflect on the same. Please, Dr. Sashi.
Definitely. Thank you, Shivayu. So before starting, I just wanted to share a very interesting, I would say, a sentence which I heard from one of our staff members yesterday, is that in India, we are producing engineering students and not student engineers. So this is something which it struck me yesterday, and it is very relevant to today. Saying what is different being an engineering student versus being a student engineer. So when you think about it, engineers have a role in almost every domain, be it liberal arts, be it medicine, be it pharmacy, be it law. Take the domain, engineers have a role some way or the other over there. And being in a multidisciplinary campus, being in a multidisciplinary setting only adds to that benefit. So I do welcome this new education policy wherein they say institutions should become multidisciplinary, and in terms of offering engineering students the options to take up courses like in multiple domains as well. Already, this I think this is the norm in many universities, like large-scale universities, including us, wherein we offer the concept of open electives, wherein students are free to choose. They can choose whatever course they want, be it from architecture or from catering or from visual communications, whatever they want. So we've had cases wherein two technology students were taking a course in editing and dubbing. So it's like their interest is over there, whatever they want. So not only apart from their own domain knowledge, this helps in building them as a well-rounded individual. So first and foremost, for building the all-round capacity, multidisciplinarity is always useful. Secondly, problems are aplenty, be it domain, and engineers are the ones who are technically supposed to provide the solutions for problems. And being in a multidisciplinary setting definitely adds to that, wherein you can identify, interact with people from different domains, have the opportunity to explore and see where you can implement the knowledge which you have gained from your engineering and other disciplines as well. Now, when we come to the whole point of implementing this, that is where the challenge lies. Granted, universities, like bigger institutions who are already multidisciplinary are always at an advantage because, they have multiple faculties, multiple domains already in one setting. But what about standalone institutions? There are many. That is the highest number in our country. Talk about engineering colleges, arts and science colleges. Those standalone institutions are the highest. That is where I really like the concept of special education zones or education clusters, which the policy mentions, wherein different institutions from different domains in a similar location come together for sharing of resources. That, I think, going forward, if we are able to realize and implement that in true letter and spirit, it will definitely be helpful for all the institutions and, most importantly, the students of all the institutions, thereby giving a fresh and an all-round perspective for students from all institutions. Thank you.
You Thank you, Dr. Sashi. It's very interesting when you spoke about the clusters, which I'm just looking forward to how it will be implemented. And
Right.
now I want Dr. Ramesh Babu's opinion on that because he is from a standalone engineering college. So, Dr. Babu, over to you. I really want to hear your thoughts on how this will happen.
Thank you for the opportunity given. I think this is the right time. We would like to move on to the new education policy. Long way we have come around. Definitely, it's a positive sign for us. And as Dr. Shashi was mentioning, if it is really happening, it's a good thing. Everyone can join hands. But there's a lot way we have to go. By the time when we start implementing NEP 2020, probably we'll face a lot of implementing issues. How we are going to implement it, what is the modality, and how this can be implemented in a large country like India. But one thing is very clear, and one positive side is that the multidisciplinary nature. Only now we think of doing what kind of requirement job is there, what engineers are about to do. Definitely speaking, it's a real time. We can think forward on modifying all our curriculum syllabi towards catering the needs of all the people and the industry side. Really seeking, we would like to prepare our students as engineers than engineering graduates. That's where all these things are available. And as it is rightly pointed out, if we understand what is the need of the stakeholders and what is the availability of the problem statements available where engineers has to play a role, the kind of multidisciplinary nature need to be thought. And I hope now it's a time we are coming out of the old school of thoughts. Mechanical engineers are mechanical, electrical engineers are electrical, something not like that. It is an engineer all in way we need in the industry domain, not different disciplines. We cannot create one what you call a gadget by having 100 engineers put together. We need an engineer who can think out of the box to provide a solution to the requirement. And that is where our new education policy will play a vital role now. And probably that will improve the standards of all the life through the engineering solutions. And this is the right time for us. We have to leverage our what you call the old school of thoughts. We have to come out from that. We have to join hands. Education is education. Once we all do together, definitely we can come out in different way, especially in the Indian context. Over to you, Shubhayu.
Yep. Sorry, I was muted. So thank you, Dr. Babu. Now, one very important thing which he mentioned is, we're looking at engineers coming out and becoming more engineers rather than graduate engineers, and the whole concept of that is, getting them in the right industry. Looking at, there is a skill gap which exists between the industry and the higher education institutions in terms of the students which we are preparing to churn out and give out to the industry, right? And this skill gap can only be fixed through innovation and research. So my next question is for Dr. Sashi. Dr. Sashi, what do you think is, do you think, I know that not enough research and innovation is being done from an institutional perspective by students at a degree level, right? So how do you think institutions can empower students at being more innovation research focused and looking at a more entrepreneurial and service oriented role when they graduate and when they want to look for a job? Over to you, Dr. Sashi.
Yes, Shivayu. So definitely a very good question and one of my passionate points, I would say, in terms of bringing innovation to the students and student mindset, giving them more opportunities. Because I always tell our students, academia is very forgiving, whereas industry is very strict with you. Once you make a mistake in an industry, you're given one chance and next you're fired. But whereas in a university or within an institution, you are encouraged to fail so you can learn a lot and learn from your mistakes. That should be the kind of motivation, I would say, faculty members and institutions should be giving the students. Encourage them to try different things, make mistakes. We are all here to learn. An institution itself is a place for learning. So if this mindset is ingrained into all the students and all the faculty members, automatically things would start flowing from there on. But one thing where I'd like to say, now that we're also talking about with the education policy, is in terms of the assessment. If you look at the most, because majority of the colleges again in the country are affiliated colleges, unfortunately 20% is given to the internal assessment, which is continuous assessment, and 80% is given to the final end semester examination. So essentially you are judging a student if he or she is good or not only by a 3-hour examination at the end of the semester. Do we want to do that? That is something which we need to think about. Is that engineering about? Rather, if we have a continuous assessment, have open-ended problems, open-ended projects. I do realize it might not be possible for all the courses, but wherever possible, can we get the students hands-on? Make them do projects, make them interact with the society, make them apply what they have learned and evaluate that, give them credits for that. Some students might be really good at applying and in practical areas rather than rote learning, rather than learning things by heart and writing in an examination. At the end of the day, that is what industry wants as well. They want students who can think on their feet and who are able to apply what they have learned and solve problems. That is what industry wants. There's Google for everything else. That is what industry HR people always tell us. And I do in turn share the same thing with my faculty members and students as well. So as we move on to a change in the assessment pattern, automatically it would sort of come into the culture of the institution as well. Because come what may, we might have all these additional clubs for entrepreneurship, for co-curricular activities, for innovation. Different centers might be there, but in that case, what would happen is only the interested people would go in for that. And when we want to change this as the culture, bring about a culture of change within the entire institution, then automatically it has to be done as a sort of in form of teaching, learning, and the assessment and the evaluation as well. Once this is done, give the students an opportunity to showcase their talent and assess what they have done, solve whatever problems they have solved, if they're able to assess that, see the practical aspects they have come up with, assess that, and then validate and grade them based on that. I think that itself will be a change in which how we are producing student engineers at the end of 4 years. This is my, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sashi. I couldn't agree with you more. The best example I can give is as a mechanical engineer, I knew the theory of heat transfer, but it took a shell and tube heat exchanger just to look at it from a physical perspective to understand how that concept is actually being practically used in an industry.
Right.
And that is something which
Right.
I think is a bit of a disconnect which is there, right?
True.
Um, um, Dr. Babu, I want your opinion also in this one. In terms of, you are an engineering institute, a standalone engineering institute. What do you think you are doing in terms of pushing your students towards entrepreneurial and service-oriented roles? Dr. Babu, I think you're
Yeah,
muted.
yeah. Am I audible now? Okay.
Yes,
Shubhayu,
absolutely.
when you talk, yeah, Shubhayu, when you talk about entrepreneurial role, now the thing is that the institute has to provide the arena of coming out what are all the problem statements industry is having now. If you are not giving that exposure to the students on the learning side, definitely it is only we can think that everyone cannot have a solution without knowing what is the problem statement is. So we have to create an environment that what is industry is required, what problems the society is having now, being apart from you become a mechanical, I become an electrical engineer, being apart from all these things, I only deal with the machines, you only deal with heat transform, not like that. What is the environment requires now? What is the society requires now? That problem statements as a responsible institute, we have to provide to the students fraternity. If that has been given in front of the students and then giving some thought of like design thinking, yeah, this is the problem, yeah, this is where the solution is required with, I need this, I have this, what is the way you have to do it? That is where engineering problems to be solved with. If this is happening at the end of the day, we don't need to push anything. Definitely a lot of entrepreneurship, lot of service oriented roles will come out as engineering graduates. So that is where we are doing. And as a part of, as you pointed out, as compared to, there are a couple of universities are there in front of me as Channel Institute, what we are doing it. We were tied up with like MSME, where a lot of problem statements are there. Government is promoting like anything. Only thing is that we need an innovative mind to come forward. So the institute, as what we do, we are creating a bridge and bringing all these things towards our student community. So we are recognized as an host institute for incubations. So we are providing all the opportunities arena. We bring all the experts from the different industries, and we'll create a platform for them. These are all the problem statements available. Why not you come forward? So that way, we have made that in the curriculum itself. Design thinking is a part of the curriculum, and the most of the courses are now either laboratory based course, otherwise project based course, except a few courses which we cannot replace it with some theory concepts what basically an engineer acquired with. Most of the courses we just gone for design thinking, we just gone for problem statement. At any part of a semester, definitely at least a small project or a mini project, micro level project or a major project. We name in different terminology as per the curriculum requires with lot of projects, exposure towards lot of engineering solution. This caters the need of what he has to think for as an engineer when he's graduating out, and that gives it a definite solution. Now people are coming out with a lot of problem statements, lot of solutions, lot of innovative ideas. uh, During this COVID, I am proud to say that our institute has launched 3 incubations within us in this matter of a month or two. Really, we don't thought of, we thought people are remote, they're unable to work, but that made them a pressure. I don't have any other thing. I'm supposed to do something. So far, I'm doing some book and I'm just doing a lot of problem statement. But now nothing has been available. So how can I do it? So that interest kindled from the student side. So as a institute side, what we need to provide is kindle the interest of students. I think we have a different domain of students available. They are in the different century. They're all well aware of what technologies are available. As Sashi has pointed out, he can Google it out, come out with different problem statements and different solutions. Find out which is better, guide them out. Definitely that makes out a lot of entrepreneurs. So that is where we are also doing. Only thing is we have to handhold them and give a proper guidance and mentorship. That makes it a better way. That's my point of view and what we are doing it. Over to you, Shubhayu.
You're muted, Shubhayu. Shubhayu, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. So I'm a huge advocate of design thinking. I love the business canvas model. I think the blue ocean strategy is important tool for innovation, for entrepreneurship. I mean, I was in school 2 years ago, and I think at least 4 classes used design thinking as the base in terms of how you can use that as a tool to create your own problem statement and also come to a solution, not only from a digital perspective but also from providing different aspects from the same problem for different solutions for the same problem. Dr. Krishnendu Sarkar is saying that benchmarking change marker centric engineering education of tomorrow, to be precise, and I agree with him. Now, one very important thing what Dr. Babu said was in-demand technologies or technologies which are required for this current scenario or the need of the hour. That is something which is becoming very important. And I know Shulni is ahead in terms of providing in-demand technologies along with all the other universities and colleges present here today. I want to know that there is a disconnect between institutes and companies when it comes to hiring students when they come to your campus, because the in-demand technologies is something which they believe they can get outside from a student who has done a course for that particular technology, say suppose AI or for anything for that matter. And now with the rush of online, degree providers or online education, how do you think, Professor Khosla, that what do you think about the disconnect between institutions and hiring companies when they come in terms of in-demand technologies?
So, great question over here, Shubhayu, and I would answer it in 3 different ways. The first, I've been on both sides, so I know both sides of the coin. I spent more than 20 years in the industry in consulting. And let me just spend a minute on how we would hire. So I was part of McKinsey, then with Oliver Wyman, which I headed, and we would do a huge amount of hiring from IIM Ahmedabad and the other institutions. So broadly speaking, there are 4 areas around which we would look at when we were hiring talent. The first is, like what Shashi said, ability to problem solving ability. The second is ability to manage teams. Third is ability to communicate. And finally, values. So, sab kuch bachod ke, these are the 4 things which companies look at. Unfortunately, our education system does not give these 4 things to students. In engineering, there's one more complication. There's also specific technical knowledge. So you can add that technical knowledge as part of it. And I'll give a small example over here. We were making a small concrete road at Shulani. And every time we would lay that road, after some rain, it would just wither off a little bit. And I would always ask this question saying, why should it wither off? At the end of the day, Canal Bhakra Dam, look at the amount of pressure of water that is there. Why would it not wither off? And none of the engineers could answer it till I actually had to go deep into it. And I had to really probe. So I figured out that even the Rodi, what do you call that? The pebbles that you use also make a difference in the strength of the concrete. I figured that out. None of my engineers could tell me that. I then had some problem on connectivity. We were massively upgrading technology at Shulani. We wanted to connect 100 different points through a 5 gig PON. And my professors put their hands up and said, we don't know how to do it. I said, look, guys, if Airtel's diploma holder can design something for you, how can you say you can't design it? Go and figure it out. So we spent the next 20 days designing the PON. The PON is passive optical network at Shulani, which I did. I'm not a networks engineer. The point I wanted to make, Shubhayu, over here is that we are not teaching our students to think. And this problem is not just in colleges or universities. This problem starts way at school. So students believe that they should remember, and marks are given for remembering and not for learning things. And as a result, they just don't know how to solve problems. So if I was at McKinsey or I was at Oliver Wyman, what did I seek from a student? I basically would go to him and say, Shubhayu, your website kuch theek nahi hai hamari. Do something here. Come back in 10 days and come back with a new website. That's the type of brief I would give, and that's what I expect from my colleagues, that they can break up a problem into smaller tangible things, figure out the best way to solve it, and bloody solve the problem, right? So ability to think, ability to problem solve, and then ability to implement. And like I said, just completely lacks. And this is a cultural issue, Shubhayu. We are not a nation of problem solvers. We are a nation of doers. We are a nation. Look at our top tech companies, right? They're doing stuff. They are passengers. They're not innovating stuff. We are not on Silicon Valley as of now. With all due respect to everyone sitting in Bangalore today, I think it's a cultural change that we together have to bring in. And that's why the new education policy will hopefully bring it in. A lot of criticism always on the IITs. And I personally went to IIT Kanpur. I'm an aerospace engineer, Shubhayu. And a lot of people would ask me, Atul, how much of engineering do you know? And I would say, now you can interpret this whatever I mean. It could be great or zero. I won't elaborate on that. But what did IIT give me? I think it gave me the ability to think, ability to problem solve, ability to take up very tough problems and somehow solve them. And that confidence that I can do it. So I'll end it up by saying knowledge, which was a key success factor when you and I were growing up, is not a key success factor anymore. AI is taking over knowledge. What we now need is what we call we skills and me skills. Me skills are ability to lead, ability to implement, ability to problem solve, more importantly, ability to learn, and even more importantly, ability to unlearn. We skills are ability to collaborate, ability to communicate, ability to get things done from others. And I think our engineering students need to have these skills apart from technical skills. My very last thought would be, I sit on several boards, and I'll give an example of a very large automotive company whose board I sit on. And I was asking them, why don't you hire engineers? And they were asking me, why should we hire engineers? Most of the people that I need are people for man management, and engineers are not taught man management skills. They're taught design skills. My professor is so proud of mechanical engineering. Oh, I'm teaching them how to design gears. While only 1% of students will probably get a job designing gears. You need to teach them what the industry wants, my friends. And if you don't do that, your students will not be employable. I once come back and say, yes, technical skills are very important. Pick up those 5, 7, 8, 10 very critical technical skills which are needed. Cutting edge. If you're civil engineering, teach them how to make skyscrapers, not some stupid stuff 50 years ago that you were teaching. If you're teaching them automotive, make them see a real car that is Tesla, right? Make them see a Tesla car, how that's made, not some 1920 Ambassador that you might have in your lab, or some stupid models they'll have. They'll buy these models, by the way, huh? There's a big scam, by the way. These companies will come to sell these models to institutions, and these guys will say, my electrical engineering friends fought with me, and they said, we want a microwave lab. And I told them, guys, microwave is obsolete. We don't have microwave anymore. Why do you need a microwave lab? It took me 3 days of banging, and then I had to sort of say, guys, no more discussion. There will be no microwave lab in our university. That's the point. The faculty also needs to learn. It's a big, big, big issue. Hopefully, together, all of us will solve it. But even if you can't give technical skills, me skills and we skills. And if we can give these skills to Bhayu, India will become a great country. And like engineers in Silicon Valley, our engineers will rule the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Khosla. Unfortunately, all the engineers in the Silicon Valley are from India. Okay, and there is a major.
I'm not doubting that. I think we as people are great, but they went over there and they built that skills. So we need to now build those skills in India.
Absolutely. I also believe that there is an environment for innovation over there where, like you said, we're doers, and then um, once they're there, that opportunity opens up. There is much more, I would say, an opportunity to learn, to unlearn, which you said. I agree with you. Unlearn what we've been taught and learn some new skills which have added to benefit them when they're there, right? I'm going to ask the next question to Dr. Sashi. Dr. Sashi, now, as we have spoken about students, I believe that besides the regular curriculum, education should be interest and aptitude oriented towards fulfilling a student's true potential. How do you think engineering student institute should look at these challenges when they can inspire learning to be more experiential and engaging for students? I mean, I remember when I was a student, I was interested in cars. I used to go to my mechanical professor. He's like, first you make a proper engineering drawing and come back. And these are some of the things which I want your opinion on that, please.
Definitely. So I'll add on here. Engineering education, in terms of theory, should be very, very less. It's more about what you. That is what Once you graduate, if you go on to a career, be it in any domain or any stream of choice, you're not going to be only writing whatever you have learned or whatever you have mugged up for your theory exam. You're going to actually solve or help. That is where I am a computer science engineer myself. So more so than what I learned during my undergraduate, I learned from Stack Overflow. I am not there's a website called Stack Overflow where you can see how to solve certain coding problems, and that is what I even though I should not say that, that is the reality in which how things are happening. So when it comes about experiential learning, the students should be allowed to experience what in terms of practical applications. However, in terms of projects, be it Dr. Ramesh clearly gave a very good idea about theory, having lesser number of theory courses and more number of lab-based or project-based courses so that students can get their hands dirty. That is what engineering is all about. I always tell my students that get your hands dirty as much as possible. As a matter of fact, yesterday when we were having our freshman induction program, to the freshmen who joined the university, I was just telling them this. The next 4 years, so there is this interesting study which was done by NASCOM, which tells that in the next 4 years, there are going to be many job roles for which we don't have the current education or the knowledge yet. So that is the rate at which industry is evolving. So, and definitely academia cannot compete with industry. We have to accept that fact that there will always be a gap between industry and academia. In such a case, how can we prepare our graduates? So that is where focus on the basics, ensure students are having a strong foundation, able to apply them in different scenarios, and most importantly, have the ability to learn new things. As long as students have these capacity of being able to implement the core foundations, the core principles of engineering in different domains, with the ability of learning new things at a faster pace, they'll be able to survive in any industry or any domain going forward. So that is where experiential learning, and this comes back to my previous point, which I made before, wherein academia is very forgiving, right? So experiential learning should be encouraged as much as possible in academia, because we are here to let students learn. We are here to give them opportunities to learn. And such projects, such labs would only add on to that. For one interesting example I'll share from our own university is that all our engineering students have to compulsorily do a 1-year community service project, wherein they have to, because we are in a rural area and we have adopted a lot of villages as part of the Unnat Bharat Abhiyan scheme. So they go to a lot of adopted villages. It's a multidisciplinary team. So the team consists of civil engineers, electrical engineers, electronics. It's a multidisciplinary team which goes on to one of the villages, identify a problem and come up with a solution. So implementation is always a challenge, but at least coming up with the theoretical solution and the proof of concept and simulate that at the end of the year is what we expect. So this way we give the students an opportunity to go. And believe me, all of us can totally agree that students are more happy outside the classrooms than inside the classrooms. So give them the opportunity to go outside the classroom, make it worthwhile, give them an opportunity to kind of apply what they have learned in the classes, what they have learned in their lectures. And if this is done, definitely the experiential learning would help the students. It gives them a lot of understanding, and it gives a better understanding of the basics as well. So such initiatives, definitely it is not the same everywhere. Each institution is unique. That is another thing which I also tell our faculty members, is that every institution is unique. What works in one place will not work in the other place, because they're in terms of the environment, student, location, lot of factors differ. Just because an IIT is doing it, you want to do that is not correct. What will work according to your scenario? Identify that. It's the same thing in terms of experiential learning. Look at your student profile, look at your faculty strength, look at your industry collaborators, look at your society, look at the different factors around you and what can be done in order to give the students opportunity. Think about it and then go ahead and implement. That is what I'd like to say. Thank you. Again, you're on mute, Shivayu.
I don't know what's going on. Sorry, somehow gets muted. Sorry. Dr. Sashi, thank you very much for your thoughts. I really appreciate it. I would like Dr. Babu to please comment as well. Dr. Babu, please.
Thank you. In addition to what we discussed about experiential learning, I just add up to one more point. The learning should be fun-filled learning, because there is a drastic shift in the mindset of the students. How you want to learn? You cannot be now think of what we earlier doing in terms of classroom teaching. Earlier, we used to have 1 hour classes, 3 hour laboratories. Is it possible to keep them engaged for all those the age-old methods? Now. Now the people are different, the students community is different, and their expectation is different. They are connected in digital era. They are more prone towards mobiles. So the thing is that our education system little bit towards a fun-filled learning, in addition to what we call it as project-based experiential learning. If that what do you call, the blended of all these new era technologies have been brought into education, definitely I think it's not a big issue. The aptitude towards learning. Our baseline is that to create an environment, let us think our students should be open to learn everything. If we create that kind of mindset to the students, I think technology may come today. By they are graduating, the technology might have gone. They need to learn a new technology. Rightly pointed out by both the speakers earlier, more than learning, they should be trained or create an environment to relearn, to unlearn all the concepts of how to create a new environment. If their mindset has been made, that's where the institute has to play a role. Otherwise, as we earlier discussed, there are a lot of forums. Online learning is completely available. The best in class professors across the globe is available in the net. So what is the role of institution has to play a way? As Dr. Sashi has pointed out, go to the societal needs, what kind of student set we have, what is expectation at the end of the day, and what to be taught to them. If we rightly judge them appropriately, what is need, how to make it, then I think we should come out with a blended model where things are rightly coming out to cater the needs of engineering graduates. I think this is where my point of thinking. Definitely seeking students are not what we call, they don't have potential. We cannot underestimate them. They are good in potential, but we are understanding in the different perspective. So we have to change our mindset. I think everyone will agree with me. Our mindset of teachers has to change first. How I have been taught, I cannot teach my own students. If this line is very clear, definitely we can understand their current students era. I think we can merge out what is the expectation of the industry as well. Learn by doing, experiential learning is all the ways there. Over to you, Shubhayu.
You are muted again, Shubhayu.
You are muted. You are muted.
No, I don't know why this is it automatically gets muted. Um, So there are a lot of people who are really appreciating this roundtable, and I can't thank you guys enough for coming in. I do have a few more questions. I haven't received any questions, only compliments for you guys. So I think you guys are doing a fantastic job, and I really appreciate you, all of you guys, for being here. Right? I'm going to talk about advanced certification programs because that seems to be everywhere. I open my email and there is somebody who's saying, do you want a certification in AI? Do you want a certification in sales and marketing, IoT? And then there is a drop down list of how many advanced certification programs they can provide to me, right? So I am sure that all your institutes are already doing something in the same, because why not provide it at the grassroots level rather than the student passing out and getting it from somewhere else, rather than getting it from the institution which they are graduating? And it is always good to have that in the resume, believe me, I know. Okay. But I would like Dr. Khosla to please reply to this one. Is what do you think is the requirements for students in terms of advanced certification which can be provided to them, especially at the university level?
So I have a very contrary view, Shubhayu, to what you said. I don't think these certifications mean much. I don't think Tim Cook or Elon Musk or anyone had some certification from Google or IBM or whatever, right? You can go around check it out, right? And it reminds me of a cousin of mine who went to an engineering college in Pune many years ago, probably 30 years ago. And every time I met him, he was trying to do some certification from either Microsoft or Google or whatnot, and he still struggles in his job. The point I wanted to make over here is, friends, when it comes to companies, yes, they want certain technical skills, which are important, but more importantly, they're looking at your ability to deliver what they're expecting you to deliver. Now, skills will keep changing very rapidly. I mean, now they change pretty much every 6 months. Today it's Python. Who knows tomorrow what it's going to be? So your ability to learn new things is very critical. Coming back to institutions, my belief is that I'm not in the business of real estate. I'm in the business of learning. And these certification programs are direct competition to me. If my students go and get certifications from other places, clearly I'm not doing a good job. So, and that's the view I have. So we are actually making our faculty do these certifications, making sure that they understand leading technologies, they understand what's out there, so that they can then provide those understanding and technologies to the students. But tying up with an upgrad or any other platform is something that one has to challenge. We are, by the way, looking at Coursera on campus, but with a very different perspective, not for giving these certifications or specializations. We think some of their liberal arts programs are very strong, something which is very difficult for us to replicate. But when it comes to technical skills, at least my belief is, if engineering colleges like Dr. Ramesh's or Shashi's and Shulani cannot provide those technical skills, then we should rather shut shop, right? I mean, we should rather hand it over to someone else to run. That's a very strong view I have, but I know some of you might even resonate with it. So if the students listening to it, I can tell you, I don't care about the degree, and I didn't care about the certifications that came with your CV when I was hiring. I only cared about what you knew and what your knowledge is. And even if you were able to get inside my company, you wouldn't have survived if you knew nothing. It was your ability to deliver, and that's the only thing that counted. So certifications don't matter. If you're a teacher, then I would say, if you're a faculty member, please improve your technical capabilities, you should know the latest what's happening, because if you don't know the latest, how the heck will you teach or make your students learn, including experiential projects? And the last thing I would say is, I'd rather invest in students exploring research. For example, we very, very heavily invest in patents. So last year, our students filed 208 patents, Shubhayu. That's the highest number in India. Compared to that, IIT Chennai did around 140. So when a student files a patent, his thinking gets ignited. The creative juices come out. Also understands diligence in terms of what it takes to file a patent. So earlier we were hiring lawyers. Now we basically say, you students have to do it. You have to file the patent. You have to write the patent. You have to develop the prototype. And that learning is, I think, absolutely path-breaking, and no certification can actually give that type of learning. So those are my views, but I'd love to hear what the other panelists have to say.
I was going to unmute myself. I agree with you on a couple of things. However, one thing which you have hit the nail on the wall is doing the advanced certification program for faculty members, because in the end of the day, they are the ones who are going to be imparting that knowledge to the students. And I agree with you that these certification programs don't make a huge difference, but I wish the hiring companies were on that same playing level as you are, and I wish you were on the other side of the table. I'm going to ask Dr.
Don't push your students to do boring, stupid jobs with these large 5 tech companies. They are boring jobs. If you go to any comedy club, every techie is made fun of. They're not the exciting job, guys. Think big.
Thank you, Dr. Khosla. I'm going to ask Dr. Sashi, in terms of advanced certification programs for faculty members, what do you think is the way forward? I mean, like Dr. Khosla said that, they are already imparting these certification programs to their faculty members. Are you also doing the same?
Yes, we are also doing the same. So as part of the annual appraisal process, weightage is given for faculty members if they upgrade themselves in some way or the other. We don't mandate that it has to be only through courses like advanced certification courses. It could also be in the form of an internship or a couple of weeks they spend in an industry, or any other way. Basically, we want to see if faculty members are improving their skills or improving their knowledge year on year. So one thing, a good point you mentioned faculty members over here is, we are all talking about students, we also talk about the industry academia, but we don't forget about the poor faculty members. And I always believe that the reputation and the strength of the institution lies in the quality and the willingness, I would say, the motivation of the faculty members. So it's very important that we consider them as a very important stakeholder in whatever change we are planning to make, whatever, so that everyone is involved, engaged right from day one. They are aware of why we are doing something or the other. It should not be a top-down stating that, okay, management decided this, principal is telling us to do, we are doing this, but rather why we are doing. So a very, a good example I'll give you was we basically encouraged all our faculty members to try to avoid examples from the textbook as much as possible. Because that's about 2 years ago, wherein a project was given to a mechanical engineering student about something in the Atlantic Ocean. And I was like, why is this student even this student might not have even seen outside of Tamil Nadu or outside his or her native place where he or she is from. How will that student know about what is happening in the Atlantic Ocean? For that, the response was, it was there in the textbook, and that is why we gave that. So that is something which we are training our faculty members to, that's when a society and a community service project came into place. Look at nearby society, look at societies nearby, look at what is known to you and see how you can give that as a project to the student rather than copying it off Google and giving it, or copying it off some other place and giving it. So for that, faculty training, faculty is empowerment is very, very crucial, very, very critical. given the right autonomy, given the right training in terms of pedagogy, given the right training in terms of teaching learning, I believe our faculty can do wonders. Definitely, yes, there are always good apples, bad apples, always it's there. So, like, in terms of encouraging the good people, push them forward, and, like, giving them will open up avenues for the others to kind of emulate them and also take things forward. So faculty empowerment, faculty training, very, very crucial, especially going forward. As part of the education policy, if all institutions were to become degree granting institution, then the onus or the responsibility on the faculty is even more. So it is very crucial for faculty members to update themselves regularly and see how the same can be transferred to the students, and also assess and evaluate the students also in that kind of way. Thank you. I
Got it. I have to get more used to this. Huh? um, uh, so, thank you, Dr. Sashi. I really appreciate the reply. And the next question for Dr. Babu is on the same lines when we are talking about faculty. Now, it's very important that faculty should be future ready. They should be research oriented. They should be promoting innovation within the class, and that is something which I think is lacking within Indian engineering institutions. I would love your take on that one, on how you would empower, besides empowering students, how would you empower faculty members or incentivize them, to increase their teaching skills or their level of teaching, their bringing in of innovation into the classroom, or rather increasing the concept, or like I remember none of my professors said do research. They said go find a job. That was the first thing on the top of the list for them. And I want your opinion on that, please.
Okay. Thank you. And it's really a challenging question, frankly speaking. Reading the mindset and then making them to understand on the upgradation of the need of the day. I'm talking about upgradation of their skill set. The faculty should be the first line, then the students. So it's creating their environment and mindset is a big challenge, definitely speaking, but it's a need of the day. So making them to understand what technologies they are comfortable with, what is the upgradation happening in the respective domain, are they in line with what is the industry expectation. So we have to create an environment. Sometimes it may be a jovial one, sometimes it may be a target based, sometimes it may be a pressurized one. However, at the end of the day, we have to cater to the needs of all our stakeholders, provided the expectation is something different. The stakeholders will be from our students and as well as from our recruiters. If both are not being met, and as a stakeholder, what we are running from our end, my faculty and our team cannot be underestimated. So to meet out this, the institution has to take care of giving a continuous support. So we suggest them, we give a what as Sashi sir has mentioned, an annual performance metrics, how they are doing, what skill set they upgraded, what is required for them, even if it is required financial aid to support them, rightly mentioning that these are all the requirement, these are all the expectation, this is where industry is growing in this particular domain. You meet out that, go to the industry, spend a couple of weeks time, discuss with them, yeah, what to be taught to my mechanical engineer, what to be taught with my IT engineer. So however, the upgradation of technology towards the engineering domain has to be there in the first line with respect to faculty as a point. So definitely speaking, they should start their research. Research is not different than teaching. There was two different terminology. I just want to make a note. We do call something called lecturers earlier. Now I think the terminology has been revoked. We called professors, maybe in the cadre of assistant, associate, in different meaning. Lecturers are nothing but we say that giving explanation what has been given in a textbook. We don't need that now. The thing has come out a different way. We need the understanding of a particular concept, and he has to do certain research on the particular domain only then that individual should become a master in the particular subject. Only then he can go to the class boldly, and if a notorious student comes out with a different question, a faculty can able to answer it, definitely speaking. Until otherwise he or she is not doing research, definitely will say that, okay, I don't know, today it is not in my memory, I'll go back and refer all my notes, I'll come back tomorrow. Then you will not be there next day tomorrow morning in front of all the students. Right? Earlier it was different. Only it is a one-way communication. A teacher teaches, the student takes notes. No, it is not like that now. We are going with different way of methodology. It's only an student has to involve in learning. If we do that, definitely speaking, the research, skill upgradation, the last point what you discussed, all these advanced certifications, we have to ensure we are on par with the existing market. And I do recommend for this in terms of students also, where you are standing. If we give an international certification, it's not meaning that I'm going to add up in the resume and say that you recruit because of this. No, it is not so. No recruiting agency will recognize your degree or your certification. They will check out your definite what kind of knowledge you have. But where I am standing, where is my benchmark? In that case, I think the upgradation, skill upgradation, online certifications, research, even we would like to promote research on the undergraduate itself. That is where we have to think of, that is where we have to provide an opportunity. Definitely, this will help them to understand better, to cater the needs of the current domain. Over to you, Shubhayu. Thanks for the opportunity.
I think we lost Shubhayu.
Dr. Khosla, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Shubhayu.
Yeah, so Dr. Khosla.
I think we lost Shubhayu. So I think till, Sachin is coming in.
Yeah, so I mean, I think because of there is some problem with the internet. So the
Here he is. He's back.
As soon as possible.
Okay.
So, Dr. Khosla, my question is for you. You spoke so much about, having so many patents. Firstly, let me start. Thanks, Sachin, for jumping in. He came in at a moment's notice. And so when you were talking about the patents, which is being provided by university, you said they're one of the largest within the country. Now, for something like this to happen, you definitely would have a center for technology, innovation, or research, or a specialized infrastructure which would be required for something like this. Could you highlight some of the key advantages and benefits, besides of course the patents, which it gave to students and to faculty members? Because I want to hear a little bit more about from the faculty's perspective as well.
I think let's break the problem down into two things. One is actually three. There are patents which you file, then there are academic papers that you write, which are citational papers. And the third is work that you'll do in consulting with the industry. So that's typically what faculty members or students will do. In my belief, and that's the belief actually, research and innovation needs to be deep-rooted inside the culture of the university. So we believe that if a university does not do deep innovation and research, it's merely a teaching institution or a college, not a university. So rather than have one special entity that's going out and delivering on research, the way at least we work is we've got everyone, whether it's students or faculty, expected to contribute towards research. We provide the infrastructure. Not only a library, but our labs are now open 24/7. So students can walk into any lab they want, not only labs of their area, but any lab. We brought in India's first research-centric undergrad program in the country, and lots and lots of other similar things. So if you come to any of our meetings, if you come to my vice chancellor's meeting, the first meetings, the first sentence is asking the faculty, tell us about what is your progress in research. So it's something very, very deep rooted. It's not something that comes by chance. It's something that you keep working on over a period of time. So our belief also is that if students learn through research, their learning is way more intense, it's deeper, and it's more relevant. So what else do we have to support? Yes, we have a IPR cell. Yes, we have an incubator, which is highly recognized. Yes, we have lots and lots of partnerships with industry. Yes, we have lots of partnerships with global universities. Yes, we have partnerships with lots of technology firms. I think those are all part of the ecosystem of a university. But I think the most important thing is where it becomes part of culture. It's almost like, if you remember the IITs, I don't know how it is now, but when I went to IIT Kanpur, it was pretty much given in the culture that a BTech would go to the US for a master's. 90% of the guys would actually apply and go to the US. It was just part of the IIT culture. The same way, it's part of our culture that every student, every faculty member is expected and is encouraged and is rewarded for research and also for patents. And I think that really should be what every institution should do, whether it's an IIT or it's another institution, a college or a university. Unfortunately, in India, and I'm going to now point a little bit of a finger at QS because I know our minister keeps on poking you, saying, change the parameters of your QS rankings. And somewhere, if you look at the parameters that you have for emerging economies, you've changed it. You brought the percentage of research lower than what you have for your global rankings, Shubhayu. So you also fallen prey to that. And my belief is very simple. You can't say, I want to run the Olympics and change the rules of the Olympics, right? You have to run the Olympics by the same rules. I mean, IOA can't say, the Indian Olympic Association, that, my athletes can run very fast barefoot, so we should have a barefoot race also. So the point I wanted to make is institutions like yours should promote research, not dilute the percentage. It's only then that Indian institutions will be able to step up. They'll be able to deliver like global institutions. Just like China. I mean, we can laugh at China, but look at the recent THE rankings and you'll see what an amazing job China has done. And India can do it, but rather than be ostriches, I think we should fight the war, go out and say we can also do it. I know Shubhayu won't invite me to a QS webinar again.
I'm going to use that Olympics line next time I meet some of my clients, right? That's a really good one. I mean, if you like you said, right? If you need to run the Olympics, you need to be at that level. And I think we are trying to empower as many institutions as possible in India. And I think QS iGauge is our first step for institutions when they're looking at it from a perspective in terms of research. If you look at research, which we have included as an integral part of our methodology 2.0, they look at number of citations or number of publications per faculty member. Unfortunately, we are veering off to a different topic, and I don't want to do that. But I really appreciate you, Professor Khosla, for bringing this point out, and we'll definitely look at it, and we will work on this.
I think the point I wanted to make, Shubhayu, is that and we were talking about engineering. Let's bring deep research into engineering education, and the moment that happens, you'll see a lot of the ills will go. I think that's really the point I was trying to make.
I couldn't agree any more with you. I mean, we see a lot of research happening, and I was in an engineering firm for about 13 years before I moved into education. And I was seeing all of the research was not happening in India, but the implementation was completely done by Indians, no matter what it was. We were at the top of our game when it came to implementation, maintenance, keeping the product up to date. but research was what was completely Germany, where we were getting hammered over there. I hope that changes. I hope that changes, especially with NEP coming into play, right? I'm going to go to some questions which people who are attending this event have asked. I'm done with my questions, and I couldn't thank you enough for answering all of them. Uh, Usha Batra is asking how to deal with this problem. There are two approaches to conducting labs online: simulation and remote labs. Even so, it provides limited capability for experimentation. How to deal with this problem, especially in courses where fieldwork or machine tools are required in actual. So maybe this is a question which I would like Dr. Babu to respond, please.
Thank you. Definitely speaking, we cannot replace the actual labs. There is no alternate for it. But when you come to the basic understanding of concepts, I think the virtual labs will have a vital role now. We should keep changing our mindset. Let us explore what are all the possible ways. Why not the remote lab will understand what is that. Just because we do the labs in person, but the thing is that how we do it. For example, as you are a mechanical engineer, if you run a turbine, will you permit within the 3 hour time slot or 2 hour time slot all the students are doing on individually? If that question, realistically speaking, a group of students and looking at any one or two is operating, definitely learning may not be happening. So rather than doing it, the virtual labs or online tools, simulations, this will give an idea conceptually what this engineering is doing. Let them explore to that. Then you permit them to the actual field work. There is a blend. But at the other end, I can say that none of the tools or virtual labs can replace any of the real-time environment. That's true, 100%. I agree with that. But rather, we can give a blended one where small things need not to wait for their turn to come to the real engineering problems or these platforms in the laboratory. Let them explore all their laws, all their formulas, whatever they do theoretically. Let them understand it in a better way. Now, a lot of tools come out in 3D experiential learning. So, in three-dimensional way, let them explore it. How and technically it is happening, what characteristic it is changing. I think those things they can explore in the what do you call e-labs, virtual labs, whatever we name it as. And we'll come to the hardware where really they have to come and play a role. So it needs blended, not any one. This is my point of view, Subhayu.
Unmute. So yes, I couldn't agree with you much more than that. There is a question which I think you can see on the screen. Dr. Sashi, can you see that one? Please comment on the importance of understanding the basic science, physics, chemistry, and biology principles in shaping up future engineering graduates. This is from Ramesh Garda, please.
Yes, very good question. Because science is the foundation of engineering. Without science, there cannot be engineering. But over a period of years, what unfortunately we have been doing in India and most of our institutions is we have let science be separate, engineering be separate. Why is a student learning vector mathematics in his first year? What is the application of that in the field of his engineering he or she is studying? Similarly, why if they are learning thermodynamics or if they're learning any Newton's laws, how is that applied in engineering? That part, this connect is what has been left out. And if that was given to an engineering student right from his or her first year, that would really, really help. So we tried a new experiment, at Kallislingam University, which I'm very happy to see turned out successful. Was we started in all these basic science classes, be it physics, chemistry, or mathematics, we included one module wherein an engineering faculty member from that domain would come and talk about the applications of that particular subject in engineering. So that really gave a whole different perspective to the students. Rather than having a maths teacher talk about maths, a mechanical engineer faculty coming and telling about how what you learned in this subject is applied in the field of mechanical engineering, over giving such real world examples, basically let the students give an idea to conceptualize the basic sciences he or she learns in the first year. So in that way, if we are able to link between the science which we learn and the real world application, because definitely if you say you eliminate science, I'm not for that, because science is the foundation of engineering. Without knowing mathematics, without knowing integral or discrete calculus, you cannot go on. And similarly in computer science, without knowing discrete mathematics, no point in studying anything going forward, right? So definitely there should be a connect between the science being taught and the engineering applications. If you are able to establish that, it will be a success for the students and as well as for the faculty members. In this thing, one thing where I would like to add on is that generally it is the attitude of faculty members, in terms of collaboration, interdisciplinarity is very less. If there's the collaboration between engineering faculty and science faculty, because normally in engineering institutions, you see science and humanities is a separate department located in the first year block, having no relation with the engineers altogether. That is unfortunately the case in many institutions. If we are able to develop an environment in which they interact with the engineering faculty members and involve them in the classes as frequently as possible, definitely a new flair or new perspective will be given to the students who are ultimately our beneficiaries. Thank you.
Excellent reply, Dr. Sashi. I couldn't agree more with you. My last and final question for today, because we are now going to spill over, is from Mohit Kumar. This is for Professor Khosla. Seeing the current scenario, can you please suggest us regarding new teaching methodology which can be implemented for our students? And I'm assuming, Mohit Kumar, that the current scenario is the COVID scenario. So, Professor Khosla, if you could please respond to this one.
I think it's a great question over here. So the world is changing, Shubhayu, and the way we teach has to change. We are at the moment teaching online, and I believe that even once COVID is over and universities open, there'll be lots and lots of online and blended learning that will happen. So what would make great learning happen through the online platform? So first of all, the way you teach in the classroom, you can't just take it online. It's not just replicating what you did in the classroom online. So that's very, very important, Mohit. You need to break down, you need to start thinking or breaking down the student learning into synchronous and asynchronous. Synchronous is real time, which is what you're giving over the online lecture. And asynchronous, where you're actually giving them real projects. And I'll give some examples over here. In your asynchronous class, if you were earlier doing 60 minutes of it, the human mind online cannot retain anything more than 20 minutes. So your class cannot be more than 20-25 minutes by definition. If it is, then something is wrong, and either you're fooling yourself or your students are not really learning anything. The human mind just cannot absorb content for more than 20 minutes. So that's the first change. Decrease the size and duration of a class. 25 minutes at the max. Bring in some quizzes in between. So you need to have a high quality LMS and a high quality collaborative tool to make sure that you can actually do assessments along with the lecture. So we are even doing gaming and stuff like that, Shubhayu. So you can play games. You can give exams in the form of games like Space Invaders or Snakes and Ladders and the like. So you can make quizzes happen in between. After every 10 minutes, you can have a quiz, which then goes into the grade sheet, right? So your technology should support that, which means your LMS, your collaborative tool, and your assessment tool all need to be integrated. The last thing in terms of asynchronous learning would also be how you're thinking about the projects that you're giving or the assignments that you're giving to the students. And I think that's the most difficult part. I'll give a small example. It's not related to engineering, but it's related to economics. We were saying, okay, what do we do to keep our MBA students understand the concept of GDP? So we said, okay, can all of you go to your 20 shops of a neighborhood mohalla and find out the GDP of that marketplace? So you can define projects that students can do sitting at home. These could be engineering projects. For example, I give the example of road construction. You can say, can you guys go and figure out why are there so many potholes on Indian roads? Why? While then there's no pothole on a Swiss road or a US road. Why? What is the difference between the Indian technology versus the US technology? So I think those relevant questions in terms of asynchronous learning need to be asked. Or if you think about mechanical engineering, I mean, if people are normally fond of cars, for example, you can give a project, how does the run flat tire of BMW work? They don't have, they can run without air, right? There's a new technology called run flat tires. So give them projects that they'll be very interested in. And lastly, I think Dr. Ramesh also spoke about it, bring in social learning. So give them social projects. A small example over here, we at Shulini support quite a few socially relevant areas. For example, we work on cancer. So earlier they were going out and just, let's say, they were propagating against cancer. So they were basically saying, okay, that's what we're doing. So we then took a project with our AI students to say that how can you be more targeted when it came to awareness of cancer, for example. So you can take up any idea and make it relevant to the engineering student. And I think that's very important. So think about it. I'll again repeat, 50% learning has to happen asynchronous, 50% synchronous. And in your synchronous classroom, no 60 minutes, 25 minutes. And in between 25 minutes, 1 or 2 quizzes to get the engagement of the student. In fact, we've got technology, Shibhayu, that we can even capture the attentiveness of the student as they're listening. So we use AI for that. So you could have AI tools to also figure that out, because we also learned that students put their cameras off and they're actually not listening to the teachers anymore. So you have to figure those out. How do you engage the students, etc. But I think make your learning fun. I would say, Mohit, the more fun it is, the more they engage with you, the more they'll actually learn. So those are my few thoughts. This is a very big discussion, Shibayu. Happy to get into a separate discussion, separate call. We do a lot of work on it. But what a great discussion. Thank you.
As soon as we start traveling, I'm going to make that trip up north, okay, to your university.
Absolutely.
And we can have this discussion further ahead. There is a couple more things. So Mr. Biren Das is saying that NEP 2020 has recommended for multidisciplinary institutions with provisions of flexibility for subjects including liberal arts to be made available in offer. How engineering education can blend this? I am not going to ask this question because this was the first question I asked today, and this was discussed previously. So Biren, what you can do is go through the YouTube video. So like, share, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. And what can happen after that is you can go back and see this again. Another very important point which has been brought by one of our viewers is that engineering alone is not education. How about medicine, environment? So comment on other subjects. Thank you very much for bringing that up. And please, you can log in every Thursday. So we'll be having a different subject and different panel members every Thursday. So next Thursday, we are going to be talking about management. And the Thursday after that is going to be liberal arts and humanities. So I would now like to thank all the panel members. I'm sorry, we are running short of time. I would like to thank everybody who took the time and effort to be here. Shulini University, Kalasalingam, as well as M. Kumaraswamy College of Engineering. I can't thank you guys enough for being here. I know this is getting a little late in the evening. Everybody wants to get back to their families. So I would like to keep this short. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you taking the time. Wonderful, wonderful comments. I really enjoyed this. I wish this was more of a face-to-face rather than a virtual one. And I hope that everyone is safe. And the next couple of months, I get to travel and meet all of you again. Thank you very much.
Shubhayu, thank you very much.
I would now like to hand over.
Thank you, Shubhayu.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to now.
We took some amazing events. I attended the QS event in Goa, so look forward to meeting you guys in person. Again.
I would definitely bring that point up to Ashwin. So Ashwin Fernandez is the CEO of QS iGauge. People who don't know him, and Goa is completely his idea, and I loved it. And I loved everybody who took the time and effort. Dr. Babu, this time I'll send out the invite to you as well, and Dr. Sashi to you as well. You should come to Goa.
Sure.
That's it from my side. I'm now going to hand over to Sachin, my colleague, who is the Associate Director for Client Relations, for the thank you note. Sachin, over to you. Yeah.
Thank you, Shibayu, and good evening. So I think you have pretty much covered the thank you note as well. So in fact, there was no need of it. But I think it was indeed a great session, as we can see the comments from the viewers. Everyone seems to have enjoyed it, and really appreciate the panelists for sharing the real life examples from their own institutions. And went into the details of almost every aspect of engineering education. We went into the details, as you know, how the engineering education is being delivered as of now, more importantly how it is ought to be delivered, and how we should all remain ahead of the industry, or at least catch up with the industry, and bringing in all relevant innovations which are needed to keep the education relevant for 21st century as well. And I'm sure it was extremely useful for all the viewers as well. So on behalf of the viewers and entire QS iGage team, again I would like to thank Dr. Ramesh Babu, Dr. Shashi, and Mr. Khosla for sparing their valuable time, and for being part of this very interesting roundtable discussion. And for all the viewers, those who have joined us through YouTube, since you are here, you are requested to subscribe the channel, and also press the bell icon, which so that you keep getting the notifications of all of our future events. So with this, we come to an end of this roundtable discussion. Stay safe. Thank you very much.